Right, today we're going to study our last sutta in the premises of the Minding Center in Shenton House in Singapore City. And today is the 22nd of August 2018. After this we'll be probably recording these teachings from Pali House itself in Jurong East. We're going to do chapter 11 today, SD 51.11, the Padana Sutta. Padana means the striving, the effort. There are, I think, at least one other sutta by this name. So we have prefixed it with its location, Sutta Nipata. So this is called the Sutta Nipata Padana Sutta. The Sutta Nipata discourse on the striving, SN 3.2. Sutta Nipata chapter 3, Sutta 2. They are all in verses, that is SN 425 to 449. And this Sutta Nipata Padana Sutta is about the Buddha's great striving for awakening. So here we have a very ancient record telling us what the Buddha mentally or spiritually went through just before his awakening. So this is one of those biographical suttas that give us a very good idea on the life of the Buddha. So this is just before he became awakened, just before he became Buddha. The translation starts on page 149. The Sutta Nipata discourse on the striving as N 3.2. The sutta begins with the Buddha sitting in meditation and Mara appearing to him. Resolute was I in the striving on the Niranjara bank, meditating with all my strength for attaining the safety from the yoke. So this is SN 425. So here the Buddha is telling us how he spent his time sitting down beside the river Niranjara, meditating to free himself from suffering. Verse 4 to 6. With compassionate words, Namuchi, that is Mara, Namuchi means no release. In other words, he won't release you. He will hold you kind of forever, if you like, in samsara. So Namuchi approached me, saying, so thin are you, of color are you, in death presence are you. Right? So this is Mara telling, reflecting, if you like, the nature of the Bodhisattva at that time. He had struggled for 6 years, torturing himself with all kinds of self-torture, with asceticism. So he has taken almost no food and is very thin, emaciated. And he has realized that this extreme doesn't work. In fact, he might die, not attaining any state at all. So he decided to follow the middle way, that is, to meditate into jhana and then use that mental peace and clarity to reflect on the nature of his mind, the nature of true reality. So this is the situation, the scenario. Then Mara continues, verse 4 to 7. 1,000 parts of you belong to death. Only one part is life. Live, sir. Life is better. Living, you will make merits. So this is the typical rationalization that most people in the world would have, right? That it is better to live and do good deeds, and you are reborn in the heavens, and so on. Well, that's exactly what Mara wants, actually. As long as you remain in this world, whether you're in heaven or any of the states, you are still under the power of Mara in any of the 31 planes of existence. The idea here is that as long as you are in samsara, you will go through this cycle, you'll play this cosmic game of snakes and ladders, you'll go up and down in the cycle of rebirth and rebirth. And this is what Mara wants to keep us going in that sense. So here he's telling the Bodhisattva, say, well, look at you. You are as good as dead. 1,000 parts of you belong to death. Just one part only is life. There's not much life left in you. So don't go on with this struggle, right? So here now we're not told exactly at which point Mara appears to him, but from the story we can only guess that it was before the awakening, when he has actually given up his all this self-asceticism, if you like. Of course, there's a possibility that Mara could have appeared to him in the midst of his struggle, at a point where he nearly died, and then he kind of realized that he should take the middle way. Mara could have appeared at that time. But definitely during the last period of his bodhisattvahood. So here is where Mara is telling him in the next verse 4-8, live the holy life and offer the fire sacrifice. Heap up abundant merits. What is there with striving? So here Mara is saying, don't go on. Okay. Now here Mara is sensing that the Bodhisattva is kind of getting away from him. After all, what's wrong with the Bodhisattva dying? He's going to be reborn and still be under Mara's power. But here, it appears that if he dies, he might just awaken at the same moment and be free from him. So he's telling the Bodhisattva, live the holy life. Pray to the sacred fire, worship the fire, Agni, the fire god. This is the practice of those days. Okay? So what he's saying is, if you live the holy life, you will get married, you go to heaven, things like that. So here again, what is very interesting is we see Mara even influencing religion, even having control over religion. Mara controls every activity in the world, if you like, the unawakened world. 4-9, SN 4-9. Striving is a difficult path, hard to do, hard to accomplish. Having said these verses, Mara stood near the Buddha. Right? So here we see, listen to these words. Mara is saying these words, and we often hear these words repeated by a lot of monks and nuns and laymen and laywomen say, it's difficult to live the holy life, so just make merits. But they forget they're actually speaking Mara's words. This is exactly what Mara wants us to do. Don't strive too hard. Don't aspire to stream winning. Don't reach the path. It's not worth it. It's difficult. It's impossible in this time and life. That's exactly what Mara wants. They say, well, just be happy, play in the world. Enjoy life. So he comes nearer to Buddha. And verse 430. So now, okay, you notice the narrators. You have first the Buddha, and then Mara speaking, and then you have it's probably the narrator again. To Mara, who had spoken thus, the Blessed One said this: bad one, Papima, kinsman of the negligent, one who encourages people to take things easy, not to strive on. You have come here with your own vows. Right? So it's telling Mara, you've come here for your own sake, not for anyone's sake. Not even an iota of merit Is there any need for me? Right? So the Buddha is quite clear. He says, I don't need even a drop of merit. Iota is the smallest letter in the Greek alphabet. In other words, it means even the smallest drop of merit. I don't have need of that. Of course, the Buddha is being ironic here. He doesn't need all these merits because he has already stored great merits through many lives of practicing the perfections as a Bodhisattva. So there's no need of that. What he's saying, he doesn't want to live a worldly life and get caught up with samsara again. That's only going backwards. So what is all this talking about? Living the holy life and keeping merits and so on. Then the Buddha goes on to talk about his practice 4.3.2. There is faith, likewise effort, and wisdom too is found in me. Thus am I resolute. Why do you ask me about life? Now here the Buddha only mentions faith, effort, wisdom. Right? So the Buddha basically is saying, I have faith in what I'm doing, and I'm making the effort, and I know what I'm doing. Faith, effort, wisdom. So I'm very determined. Don't try to distract me. It doesn't matter even if I should die. But of course, he knows in this case he's not going to die. He's heading on in the right direction. 4.3.3. This wind would dry up even the flowing streams. Why should blood not dry up when I'm resolute in striving? So here the Buddha is saying it's natural that we will die. It's natural that this body will perish. So what's the big deal there? Okay? I mean, this wind that is so obviously there's a wind blowing there. The Buddha is in the open. He said, well, this wind keeps blowing, and then this water will evaporate from the stream. So it's a natural cause of. That's the way the world works. 4.3.4. When blood is drying up, bile and phlegm dry up too. When the flesh is wasting away, all the more the mind brightens up with faith. All the more my mindfulness and wisdom and samadhi stands. So this is the great struggle of the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be. He's saying, I have nothing to do with this body, right? So he has attained this very deep level of meditation where he transcends the body, pure mind. Of course, if he does die, he will be reborn in some Brahma world. But then, of course, he won't be Buddha. He may attain some levels, but then kind of finish his life there and then come back into the world, maybe pass away finally there. But then he won't be to our benefit. So here, the Buddha basically is saying, my body may weaken, doesn't matter, but it's this mind that I want to attain samadhi, the focus that's needed for spiritual awakening. 4.3.5. When I dwell in this way, having attained the highest feeling, the mind sees no sensual pleasure. See the purity of a being, right? So here the Buddha is saying that he has mastered meditation and he has attained the greatest joy that meditation can give, a joy, a pleasure that's far more wholesome than any worldly joy. This is a good, happy joy. It is the kind of joy with which you push away worldly pleasures, worldly distractions and the defilements. So this is where he is free from Mara. Then he declares, in the imperative sense, it says, Passa sattassa suddhotang. See the purity of a being. So it is a kind of powerful spiritual statement. It says, here is someone who's able to attain this state, which you say is not worth it. Okay, so Mara is kind of feeling really at a loss now because he is unable to encourage, to dissuade the Bodhisattva from giving up his quest. Right. So anyway, here the Buddha is telling us further what Mara is capable of, and he's telling Mara, this is what you really are. Okay. Sensual pleasures are your first army. Notice, this is the battle, war imagery, right? So Mara is waging a kind of war, if you like, a subtle war. Discontent is your second call, right? So here again we see the echoes of a very common teaching here of the 10 fetters, even of the 5 nivaranas. So you find here, the first is sensual pleasures, meaning getting caught up with the bodily sensations, and the opposite is discontent, ill will, and so on. Your third is hunger and thirst. So most of us, we are concerned with taking food and drinking water or enjoying drinks. So we get caught up in the world. The fourth is craving call, right? So this is a kind of an early list of defilements. The fifth is sloth and torpor. So notice is a familiar one of those 5 hindrances. And the sixth is called fear, right? So this fear is again one of those things that prevents us from taking that step further. Many of us wonder, what would it be like if I aspire to stream winning? We fear giving up our worldly pleasures and so on, right? Fear usually arises because of ignorance. We're not sure what is this next step we must take. What is it like? Your seventh is doubt, right? So doubt is we're not certain what to do. So these are all Mara's army. These are allegories. Okay. Hypocrisy and obstinacy are your eighth. So these are human weaknesses which turn us away from spirituality. And then comes another set which is very common, often mentioned to the monks: gain, repute, honor, and ill-gotten fame. And whoever exalts himself but belittles others, that, Namuchi, is your army, the strike force of the Dark One, Kanha or Krishna in Sanskrit. Who is a hero, who is not a hero, cannot conquer it. So here, hero is of course the meditator, the practitioner. But having conquered it, he wins happiness. Happiness here is a general term for awakening, for liberation. So here we see a time when the worship of Krishna is not risen yet. You have the Buddha the Buddha calling Mara by the name of Kanha, which in Sanskrit would be Krishna, the Dark One. So here we have Mara as an allegory for all our ignorance and fears and defilements. Some scholars think that this idea of worship of Krishna came from the influence of the Hercules as a kind of deity. So that became Krishna later on, assuming a totally different personality. Okay, then the Bodhisattva continues with his statement, kind of pushing away, rejecting Mara. Verse 440, this munja grass I wear, shame on my life. Better is my death in battle than if I were to live defeated. Okay, this is a very clear battle imagery of the Sakyas. The Sakyas, when they go to war, when they wear the munja grass in their headdress, or usually in their headdress, it will mean no retreat. They will fight to the death. So they were kind of very fierce warriors, not afraid of death. So here the Buddha is using this imagery on a higher level. What's the point of living? And when I'll be under the power of this evil being, of all the defilements, it's better to die. But then, of course, the irony, if you die or reborn, you'll still be under his powers. You hear death meaning to die, awaken, to attain awakening. SN 441. Some recluses or Brahmins, having plunged here, are not seen, for they know not the path which those of true practice go. So there are many people who take up religion, who claim to be holy, but they're lost. They're lost in worldliness. As today we see many people using religion for the wrong things. They use Buddhism as they see Buddhism like a market, as a product to be marketed and things to be profited from in a worldly sense. Lots of money being gained and so on. So that's exactly what Mara smiles on. So yes, gone. And he's very happy. We are all under his power. 442. Seeing an army arrayed all around, Mara armed on his mount, I will go forth into battle. Let him not shake me from my place. Right here, we're not told what's exactly happening out there, but we have an idea now. I suppose from the time the Buddha says something like, see the purity of a being in SN 435, line D, Mara probably has this army there, and the story goes such as this huge army of demons trying to challenge and frighten this lone bodhisattva sitting under the Bodhi tree. So imagine just one small figure, radiant figure of the Buddha to be, and you have this huge, immense darkness all before him, all around the Buddha, if you like, getting ready to attack him. It's the battle between good and bad. So here, the Buddha says, let him try. He's not going to shake me from this place. For SN 443. That which cannot be conquered by an army of the world with its devas, that army of yours I shall break up with wisdom, like a stone breaks an unbaked pot. So here, even the devas are unable to challenge this situation. What more to talk of the host of evil, host of bad? Right. So here the Bodhisattva is very certain that I will defeat you. So he's very certain that he's going to attain awakening. And it's the momentum that he is getting. So he's kind of declaring, I'm ready for awakening. SN 444. Having subdued my thoughts and well-established mindfulness, I will wander from country to country, guiding a multitude of disciples. So he's looking ahead a bit. It's like a dream he has. He said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not only going to get enlightened, I'm going to teach the world. I'm going to free the world. I'm going to send out my disciples from country to country, everywhere. Then SN 445, they, the diligent, the resolute doers of my teaching, they will go against your desire, having gone where they sorrow not. Where they sorrow not means they attain certain levels of the path or understanding of the Dhamma at least, and we practice the Buddha's teaching, and we try to push away Mara's enticement and seductions and so on. So this is not, okay, in this case this is difficult because of these challenges, but we know what's going on, so to that extent we know just what to do. SN 446. Now the Buddha is kind of reflecting his practice. So from here we know the timing. For 7 years, this is Mara talking, by the way. For 7 years I pursued the Blessed One, following him step for step. No opening or no weaknesses did I find in the fully self-awakened one, the mindful. Now this is interesting because it seems that this part is spoken after the Buddha's awakening. It's like there are two parts here. The one that we just finished reading, ending with SN 445, shows the up to the point before the meditation. But here, the Mara is saying, well, I followed the Buddha for 7 years. Here you have another sutta called the 7-year sutta, Sattavassa Sutta, where the details are given. That Mara followed the Buddha since he left home, since he left Kapilavatthu. So we have this idea that that period was 7 years. 6 years of self-torture, so a year of meditation, starting with 1 year of meditation, then the rest are kind of doing self-torture, and he comes out of it, and then it goes into the new kind of meditation which he realized. And now we're coming to the end. So here, apparently Mara is kind of talking about his own failure here. He says, a crow circled a stone that looked like a piece of fat, thinking, perhaps we shall find something tender here, perhaps even something tasty. Right? So Mara is like this crow. He sees the Buddha, and a crow sees the stone, but he thinks that this stone looks delicious, looks like a piece of meat. And then he pecks on it, but there's nothing there that can be eaten at all. So here Mara is unable to budge, to do anything to the Buddha at all. SN 448, not getting anything tasty there, the bird flew off from there, just as the crow assailed the stone. Disgusted, we leave Gautama. So here we see Mara actually kind of telling about his failure. We leave Gautama. Here we are, because he has got this host of demons and so on. So they departed, having failed to stop the Buddha. And then the last verse is the narrator telling us something rather strange. We're not sure exactly what this means. The veena fell from his armpit of that one overcome by grief. Then the disheartened yaksha disappeared right there and then. Okay, so this is the narrator telling us. Not many scholars are befuddled by this verse. We're not sure exactly what is being said here. So we take it literally. It seems that we take it as symbolic. It'd be much easier, mythical in the symbolic sense. He holds a veena. This veena plays beautiful music, and just a stroke can last for a very long time. I suppose we can take this veena as representing all the pleasures of the world, represented by the music that's played by this veena. So he kind of the fight, the so-called war with the Buddha is quite dramatic in the sense you got to picture this huge host of demons attacking the Buddha in different ways. You can read about this in, I think, the Miraculous Life of the Buddha towards the end. So all that failed because of the goodness of the Bodhisattva. I suppose we have to imagine it is actually happening mentally. It doesn't really happen in a physical sense. Mara could be there. Yeah, Mara could be a real being and trying to frighten the Bodhisattva and the Buddha later on. So he leaves disheartened. So he's also called a yaksha, kind of a nature spirit, but he's the demonic kind. He's always there to distract you. And he disappears just like that. And he drops his musical instrument. In other words, for a moment it seems he doesn't have that power to kind of darken the world, to distract the world. You know. There's a very interesting bit of development here. It seems the gods were watching, but they kept their distance. Apparently they do fear Mara for some strange reason. So when Chakra, as it said, saw the veena drop from Mara's armpit, he swooped down there and took that beautiful musical instrument away and gave it to Panchasika, the heavenly musician, so that he could play music on it. But as we know, here again, symbolic, the gods are enjoying life, so they find this is something that suits their lifestyle of enjoying good karma. So it's also, there is a bit of irony there. So by taking that veena, basically we are told that, we are kind of hinted at that even the heavenly worlds are part of Mara's realm. So we can interpret that story in this way. So there are a lot of mythical aspects here, beautiful mythology, very lively mythology of Mara, the gods and the Buddha here. So these are things we can work on and study and compare with the mythology of other religions, especially Greek mythology, for example, and we can see lots of very interesting overlapping and parallels. So here we have the life of the Buddha, just before his awakening, or just immediately after his awakening, telling us how he struggled with Mara, how Mara failed, and how he awakened as the Buddha for our benefit. It is also an admonition to us not to give up, to put in our effort, to strive for the path in this life itself, because if we do not, then the alternative will not be so good, not so bright. We are more likely to be reborn in one of the subhuman planes, or even if we are reborn in the human world, we may not meet with the Dharma again. And if we are reborn in the happy states in the heavens, we'll be enjoying life so much that we'll forget the Dharma still. So, right as we are now as human beings, this is the most opportune time, the best time and place for us to aspire to at least stream winning, so that we head for the path at the end of this life. So do reflect on the Sutta Nipata Vedana Sutta. Let us now close with a short reflection. As practicing Buddhists, our life is a struggle, an inner struggle, a spiritual struggle to grow, to be free from our past, from our ignorance, from our defilements. We must, of course, first of all, bravely face them, encounter them, know exactly what they are, and then understand that all these arise from our past, arise from our own ignorance and craving. And so understanding that, we're able to let go of them so that we are free, and we actually make that effort. And this is how we practice the Four Noble Truths. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. By the power of such karma, may we be blessed with joy and good health and wisdom in this life itself, so that we have the courage to aspire to attain at least stream winning in this life itself. May also, by the power of the Three Jewels, all our relatives and friends and those who are practicing the Dharma to be well and happy and attain the path in this life itself. And by the power of the Three Jewels too, may those who are lost or have difficulties, may they too see the true path, the true teaching in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.